Tonight, cheating death. A spectacular crash in Welshpool leaves a 25-year-old with little more than a broken arm. Collingwood and Geelong heading west with Perth to host an AFL hub. A fake doctor's counselling con comes unstuck, the scam earning him less than $100. New laws to stop vegan activists trespassing on WA farms. And Novak Djokovic cops a serve after he and his wife contract COVID-19.
This is 10 News First, Perth, with Monica Koss.
Good evening. A driver survived a spectacular high-speed crash in Welshpool overnight. The impact ripped the car in two. The 25-year-old cut free with little more than a broken arm.
Out of control, a BMW ploughs into trees. The force of the impact tears it in two. Its driver survives.
There was no squeal or brake skidding or anything. It was just a big thump.
I heard an almighty bang. I thought it was like a bomb going off. I've run outside and I've seen the car split in half.
Debris scattered for metres around the crash site. The 25-year-old man behind the wheel had to be cut from the wreckage.
The car was literally cut in half and it rolled 20 metres the back part of the car past the front of the car. The bumper and everything was a lot further down.
I honestly thought that I was going to find somebody that wasn't with us anymore. So I've called out and the guys answered me.
He was taken to hospital with a broken arm and nose and will have surgery tonight. The man will have surgery on his injuries and hospital staff say in time he's expected to make a full recovery.
Absolutely lucky. Absolutely. Like he had a good car. All airbags went off, side airbags, front airbag. Very lucky man.
Well, he's got out alive, I'll never know.
Police are still investigating and no charges have been laid. Witnesses say the man was speeding before he lost control. Alexandra Ristway for 10 News First.
The ball is rolling for a Perth-based AFL hub, with the first two Victorian teams selected to fly west. Reporter Steph Baumgartel is live for us at Optus Stadium. Steph, which teams are bound for the hub?
Mon, the teams selected to play here in WA may surprise you. Geelong and Collingwood are the first clubs set to head west. While the fixtures won't be released until tomorrow, it's believed the Eagles and Dockers will spend one extra week on the Gold Coast before heading back home for a Round 7 Western Derby. The Cats and Magpies will also fly here at the same time, with the AFL hoping the Victorian clubs will play each other while they're in quarantine, meaning there'll be no contact between the interstate teams until the 14 days are over. The Round 7 return does coincide with July 18, the date we're due to enter Phase 5. Mon, that means 60,000 fans could pack out Optus Stadium for the games, the biggest crowds seen by the AFL all season.
Exciting news. Thanks, Steph. Victoria has put out a call for help from the Defence Force and other states to deal with an escalating coronavirus emergency. The Vics have recorded double-digit increases in case numbers for more than a week. Testing stations have been inundated.
We don't want to judge any individual state or territory where there is an outbreak, because that's what can happen. It can literally take one person who doesn't do the right thing.
The biggest issue remains community transmission. A counselling con's unravelled for a man masquerading as a psychologist. Tyson Vasher was charged after a warning from Consumer Protection, but he hasn't ruled out trying to become a mental health worker in the future.
Conman, fraudster, and in need of the very counselling he was pretending to offer.
No one was unhappy with my counselling, so I may be the best unqualified psychologist.
What happens for those people now?
Well, but you're the best at it. Interesting.
I'm the best.
Tyson Vasher preyed on WA's most vulnerable, masquerading as a psychologist, offering medical services he's not qualified to provide.
Have you ever considered actually going to uni and getting some qualifications?
It seems like a bit of hard work.
What he intended to do was to employ, and was in the process of employing, psychologists to provide psychological counselling.
Right.
But what he needed to do was obviously wait until they were in his employ.
The 23-year-old today admitted to 3 fraud-related offences in court after his home and North Fremantle office were raided by police.
And are you a liar?
No, I tell the truth. I'm a truther.
The court heard Tyson Vasher suffers from mixed personality disorder and narcissistic traits. A mental health assessment recommended he receives extensive psychological counselling.
Who better to understand you than someone that's been through it themselves?
Despite the elaborate con, police are only aware of Vasher convincing one person. They say she confided in him and provided personal details with the hope of getting professional help. Instead, she was scammed out of $99.
I hope that her encounter with me hasn't left her less trusting than she initially was.
Vasher was placed on a 12-month intensive supervision order and handed less than $3,000 in fines.
I've got a new title now. I'm not a psychologist. I'm a biologist because I'm going home. Bye-bye.
Nathan Brooks for 10 News First.
The state government has introduced legislation to double the trespass penalties for animal activists, but farmers are furious the new laws could also mean they're regularly inspected for animal welfare.
Animal activist James Warden filmed trespassing and stealing a calf from a Pinjarra farm last year. It's stunts like this by groups like Direct Action Everywhere that have prompted the state government to introduce new animal welfare and trespass laws.
We did undertake to farmers that we would give them additional protection.
The legislation doubles the maximum penalties to include 2 years imprisonment for aggravated trespass, a fine of up to $24,000 and the option of a restraining order if there's no jail time.
I don't see this as being any implementation or provision of law that will stop any activists from entering any facilities whatsoever.
Farmers agree the penalties are a token gesture and are furious the bill also opens them up to scrutiny over their animal welfare standards with provision for regular inspections.
It's an insult to prime producers in the state to think that we need that level of oversight over an industry that we've been a part of for most of our lives.
But inspections can only be carried out by Department of Agriculture officers. The RSPCA says it's disappointed its inspectors are excluded and is worried about a conflict of interest.
On the one hand, they're promoting agriculture and promoting industry and use of animals, and on the other hand, there may be issues then with enforcing compliance.
We just felt that that was a bridge too far.
While the legislation has been introduced into state parliament today, there's no guarantee that it will pass the upper house, with both the Liberals and the Nationals bitterly opposed.
I'd give it a 50% chance of getting through.
As animal activists vow to continue their protests. Natalie Forrest for 10 News First.
3 men with links to an outlaw motorcycle gang have faced court over an armed rampage through Mandurah in which multiple shots were fired. Lee Steele reports.
Monica, the 3 men are behind bars tonight after being charged over a series of home invasions just over 2 months ago. Police say those arrested have links to the Nomads bikie gang and include a senior member. The rampage began at about 8 o'clock on the night of April 13 when multiple shots were fired at a phone box in Dudley Park. It's then alleged the men, armed with a gun, a tomahawk and a golf club, forced their way into a home in Koodanup. A man inside had shots fired at his feet, was hit with a golf club and stabbed with a broken club. They're then accused of breaking into a home in Meadow Springs where another shot was fired and a man hit with a baseball bat. The men accused of demanding cash and or drugs. The 3 men, Clinton Lawrence, Scott Coogan and Justin Myatt Smith, are each facing 17 charges and didn't apply for bail during the first court appearance today. Monica, police say this is an ongoing investigation and more charges could be laid.
The judge in the Claremont trials questioned an explanation about where Bradley Robert Edwards was the night Ciara Glennon disappeared. Barrister Paul Jovich also scrutinised the accounts of witnesses who were among the last to see Ms Glennon alive. Several recalled seeing a white car in Claremont on that night in 1997, but none described a Telstra logo. Mr Jovich is expected to wrap up his argument later this week. The ABC has begun slashing jobs, with hundreds of staff set to get the axe as it deals with an $84 million budget shortfall. Programs will be impacted across radio, television and online platforms.
Waking up with the ABC's flagship radio bulletin at 7:45 will soon be a thing of the past, with an announcement today that it is part of wide-ranging cuts at the national broadcaster.
Very difficult day for a lot of people at the ABC. But it is something that has been coming for a while now, since the indexation freeze was announced in 2018.
Bosses cite an $84 million budget deficit and therefore intend to cut 250 jobs. ABC Life, their online lifestyle brand, will become ABC Local. The comedy channel will be rebranded and its 7:45am bulletin will be dumped, replaced by a 10-minute slot at 8am.
I think it's lunacy. It's an icon, that 7:45 radio news bulletin.
It also intends to have 75% of its staff operating outside Ultimo by 2025, with the potential for a sale and lease back of its HQ.
I do want to restock some floors and then rent out floors commercially, and part of that is to solve for the budget problem that we have.
The government welcomes this review, calling it efficient and accountable management that taxpayers would expect of the $1 billion they pay to the organisation each year. It does not shoulder any blame for the cuts.
ABC funding is rising each year over the current 3-year funding period, and the ABC has funding certainty that no other media organisation in Australia has.
But the opposition says recent reporting on natural disasters and the pandemic should see the government fighting to keep these jobs.
I think the ABC has a critical role, and I'm very sorry to see job losses at a time like this.
It seems the growing unemployment line just got a little longer. Kimberly Pratt for 10 News First.
As WA welcomes Phase 4 COVID-19 restrictions, there's still uncertainty over whether or not the Royal Show will go ahead. If it is given the green light, organisers say it'll look a little different in the shadow of the pandemic.
Daniel Williams has shows in his blood, growing up with them, then taking over his grandparents' business.
Go on the Dodgem cars and run around and just have a great time. The atmosphere at the show is really exciting.
But coronavirus has hit his industry hard.
A lot of our events were cancelled, and without the events we don't have any income coming in, so that makes life tough.
Phase 4 begins on Saturday, but we still don't know if the Perth Royal Show will go on.
These shows and events that we do require months and months of planning, and without having a deadline or a start date really made it hard, and we really didn't know what we were going to be doing.
Today the Royal Agricultural Society met to discuss the future of the event. Organisers optimistic it will go ahead. If the gates do open, the attraction, which draws crowds of hundreds of thousands of people, will look a little different, with extra precautions to stop the spread of COVID-19. Dozens of shows are held around the state every year before coronavirus shut them all down. But the most lucrative one is the Royal Show.
A lot of local WA businesses that very much rely on their income from the Perth Royal Show, so I feel like it's a very important part of the community, and it would be great if people could come out and support this.
It's hoped a decision will be made within a week. Chiara Zaffino for 10 News First.
Australian Nick Kyrgios has unloaded on Novak Djokovic after the world #1 caught coronavirus at a tennis tournament. Kyrgios says it was boneheaded to hold the event and takes the cake for stupidity.
The world #1 setting a low bar for social distancing. Novak Djokovic letting loose, fellow players going shirtless, an up-close after-party for his charity tennis tournament. Now Djokovic has confirmed he has COVID-19, the fourth player from the event to test positive.
In hindsight, it's not something that obviously should have gone ahead. It's not surprising.
COVID rules had been relaxed in Serbia and Croatia, allowing the first and second legs of the Adria Tour to take place. Then came the positive tests. Bulgarian Grigor Dimitrov, his coach, 2 other players. Now the organiser, his coach and wife. Djokovic saying in a statement, "I am so deeply sorry our tournament has caused harm. We were wrong and it was too soon."
Well, I don't think you should be having a players' party and dancing all over each other. You should feel some responsibility.
Australian Nick Kyrgios firing off a volley of tweets, offering prayers, but saying anything I've done that has been irresponsible or classified as stupidity, this takes the cake, calling the tournament a boneheaded decision. that's what happens when you disregard all protocols. This is a really bad example of misbehaviour, said Croatia's Interior Minister, as officials try to track and trace exposed players, officials and even fans. And there are fears it could derail the US Open in August, which had been slated to restart the ATP Tour. Fair to say, nobody in tennis is dancing now. Daniel Sutton for 10 News First.
Well, let's now take a preview of tonight's sport with Tim Gossage and Nick Naitanui. Well, he's excited.
Yeah, why wouldn't he be? Oh, Nickster. Yeah, it's only an outside chance of happening, but Perth could host the AFL Grand Final if Victoria doesn't get its act into gear. Hear from the Eagles star a little later. Also, John Worsfold on Conor McKenna's negative test. The Essendon coach presses for his dashing Irishman to be cleared to play. And Eddie Betts has had enough. He just wants footy to be a safe place for the Indigenous players of the future. And we have a developing story in regards to the date of the Derby back in Perth.
Until then, thanks, Tim. After the break on 10, troubled waters for an alleged sex offender who tried to sail off into the distance. And which occupants have weathered the COVID-19 pandemic? A dentist has been charged after failing to self-quarantine when returning from interstate. Claire Durl joins us live from the newsroom. Claire, what do we know so far?
Well, Monica, police say the woman went back to work at a dental clinic in the northern suburbs while she was meant to be self-isolating at home. They say she got back from interstate on the 16th of June. Police went round to her house on the 17th and 18th of June, but they say she wasn't there. Now, it sparked major community health concerns, especially considering she'd allegedly been working in the health system during this period. But the woman has since returned a negative test for COVID-19. The 30-year-old from Tapping was charged with failing to comply. She's due in Joondalup Court next month. Mon?
Claire, thank you. A major merger in the telecommunications world got the backing of shareholders today, while those looking for work received a boost. Here's Gillian Bowen with the finance news.
Hello there, some positive news today for job seekers. There's been an improvement in businesses looking for workers. Government analysis of online job ads shows a jump of more than 30% last month, or 21,700 positions. But May's total is still much lower than a year ago. And while this recovery follows an all-time low point in April thanks to COVID, there's still not enough jobs to go around for the hundreds of thousands of unemployed Australians. So what occupations had the strongest gains? Sales workers, community and personal services workers and managers. Virgin Australia's 6,000 odd mum and dad investors, along with around 30 institutional investors, have handed administrators their proposal to save the debt-ridden airline. The group, known as bondholders, is owed about $2 billion and is trying to avoid being left with almost nothing if the airline is sold to the two shortlisted bidders. We understand they've offered to pump in more money, roll over their debt and relist Virgin, with them all to become shareholders. To the ASX 200, it finished up 11 points. The merger of TPG Telecom with Vodafone got the tick of approval from shareholders today. The supermarkets both trading lower because they've imposed limits again in Victorian stores to prevent COVID-19 inspired panic buying. The gold miners among those with the biggest gains. The metal hit a fresh 7-year high overnight. A quick look at the dollar. It's up against all of the major currencies, and that's finance.
A Sydney man wanted on sex offences has been caught trying to flee the country. He was rescued from a stricken yacht and taken on board a passing cargo ship. That's where police dogs found him hiding inside an air conditioning vent.
On his newly purchased yacht and bobbing around in the ocean is 31-year-old Franco Santander. Not an experienced sailor, he soon struck trouble off Yamba and flagged down a passing tanker.
The ship's captain and crew took this man on board, towed his yacht in good faith to Newcastle.
But later that night, the father and his yacht went missing and authorities were alerted.
We've considered it to be a man overboard. We've thrown everything at a search. However, there is evidence to believe that man was trying to flee the country.
After an expensive rescue operation, it was soon discovered the tow line to the yacht had been intentionally cut. A thorough search of the ship failed to find him until Border Force came aboard and tracked Santander down to the air conditioning vent, allegedly hoping to catch a ride to Malaysia, a journey of about 2 weeks.
It'd be a very long trip stuck in an air conditioning vent for that distance.
Most of the stowaways we get are people trying to enter Australia rather than depart.
Police also allegedly found over $4,000 cash and a knife in his possession.
This is a bit bizarre. It started as a search and rescue and then it's turned into an arrest and the man put before the court.
The 31-year-old Ecuadorian national declined to appear on screen here at Sutherland Court today, but papers did reveal he's accused of trying to flee the country and avoid serious sexual assault allegations on Anzac Day. Santander will remain behind bars now until his next appearance in August. Steve Hart for 10 News First.
It's been slammed as policy on the run by Labor. Now a former PM has weighed in on the government's higher education reforms. It comes as anger builds over the decision to cut funding to some university courses and promote others.
The Federal Education Minister is scrambling to stop his planned higher ed reforms backfiring.
Dan. It's policy on the run. Dan Tehan's making it up as he goes.
As his former boss takes aim.
I don't understand the rationale for it. I think it's baffling.
Malcolm Turnbull leaving no one in doubt how he feels about the higher ed proposals.
I find the changes very puzzling.
The reforms cut HECS support for humanities subjects in a bid to push students into courses like engineering and architecture.
Their solution is to jack up the price of university degrees, which they don't like.
But the model might force cash-strapped universities to shut down the very programs the government is trying to promote. That's because they're more expensive to deliver, and university funding is being cut.
This is a government which hates universities, which has left universities to wither on the vine during the COVID-19 crisis with no support.
University students are planning protests across the country this Friday to express their anger.
At every turn, the government has been trying to shift towards this user-pays system, trying to put the cost of higher education onto students.
These cuts will see a lower amount of funding for universities, so that means the courses across the university will have a lower quality of education.
This is a massive shift toward the user-pays model of higher education like they have in the United States.
Meanwhile, 10 News First can reveal that the Centre Alliance is looking at blocking legislative changes designed at reforming higher education. They're yet to make a final decision, but the signs aren't good for a government that's trying to reform the sector. Given all the problems, Centre Alliance might save Dan Tehan from himself. Peter Van Onselen for 10 News First.
Now here's Michael Schultz with a look ahead to weather, and tomorrow is laundry day.
Well, if you don't get it done tomorrow, you won't have much luck on Friday and the weekend, even through to next Monday. It's going to look like it's going to be pretty wet. And given that we've only had a little over half the monthly average, it's encouraging that we still have a chance of picking up the monthly average of 128. The maximum in the city today got to 19.6. That was at 20 minutes to 2. The overnight minimum of 8.2 around 4:15 this morning. Most of you got to 19 today, 20 up to the north at Lancelin, but in the hills it was a bit cooler with the 17 at Bickley and 16 at Carnot and Dwellingup. That was the equal lowest in the state today. 16 was also reported at Katanning, Shannon, Walpole and Rocky Gully. 33 was the highest maximum in the far north at Columbaroo. The reason for the pleasant day tomorrow is that high pressure ridge is going to control the weather over the greater part of the state, so most of the showers will contract to the southwest, but the fronts are moving into the eastern Indian Ocean. I'll talk about those at 5 to 6.
See you then, Michael. Ahead on 10 News, here's Cheers. Brits allowed back to the pub as coronavirus restrictions are scaled back. And the curious bears that gave an NFL star the fright of his life. Donald Trump has headed to Arizona, the state with one of the country's biggest coronavirus spikes, as he continues on the campaign trail. But he wasn't there to help with the outbreak. Instead, he visited his border wall with Mexico before holding another rally.
Back in full re-election mode and unapologetically appealing to his base, Donald Trump arrived in Arizona and went straight to the Mexican border to inspect his infamous wall.
This is the most powerful and comprehensive border wall structure anywhere in the world.
Then came his second rally post-lockdown, this time filled with students for Trump. And no bonus marks for guessing the topic of today's guest lecture.
Kung flu, Kung flu.
Despite Arizona being in the middle of one of America's biggest coronavirus outbreaks, hardly anyone wore a mask or socially distanced.
So we do all these tests, and we find pockets, and we find people, and we find cases, and they say the cases have jumped.
Earlier, the president confirming he wasn't kidding when he told his last rally he asked for testing to be slowed down.
I don't kid. Let me just tell you, testing is a double-edged sword.
Only to be contradicted again by his top doctor.
But to my knowledge, none of us have ever been told to slow down on testing. That just is a fact.
Meanwhile, his Democratic presidential rival Joe Biden, who continues to lead in the polls, is pushing ahead with his strategy to avoid crowds and hold more virtual campaign events instead. He had a special guest for an online fundraiser.
There is no disconnect between the urgency of this election and the political moment and what has been happening on the streets.
And you only need to look to the streets, still being filled with tear gas, to see just how divided America remains. Eamon Ashton-Atkinson for 10 News First, New York.
There's been a stunning development regarding the noose that was found in the garage of an African-American NASCAR driver in Alabama. The FBI now says the rope had been there since last year, well before Bubba Wallace was assigned the garage. Today, Wallace hit back at suggestions on social media that he staged the incident.
It was a noose. It was a noose that was whether tied in 2019 or whatever. It was a noose. So it wasn't directed at me, but somebody tied a noose. That's what I am saying.
Wallace is the only black NASCAR driver and this month persuaded the organisation to ban the Confederate flag from its events. Disgraced comedian Bill Cosby has been granted the right to appeal his 2018 sex assault convictions. The 82-year-old is serving up to 10 years jail for drugging and sexually assaulting a woman at his home in 2004. The ruling allows Cosby to appeal 2 issues in the case, including the decision to let other accusers testify about historic encounters with him. The decision could test the legal framework of Me Too cases. Pubs will reopen in England from next weekend, more than 3 months after they were locked down. The British government has also announced restaurants, hotels and hairdressers can reopen, while the 2-metre social distancing rule has been halved.
As eagerly awaited as a pint will be a haircut, particularly by me, Mr. Speaker.
The changes only apply to England, with Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland following different plans. A surging river has caused several floating structures to break free and slam into a bridge in Serbia. The homes, bars and restaurants were all crushed on impact. Further south, a giant waterspout formed in waters off Istanbul following days of torrential rain and flash flooding in Turkey's biggest city. A 7.5 magnitude earthquake has struck Mexico's southern Pacific coast, killing at least 5 people. Buildings crumbled near the quake's epicentre, while shockwaves sparked panic in hospitals and shopping malls hundreds of kilometres away in Mexico City. Authorities are warning millions of people to be on high alert, with more than 150 aftershocks already recorded. An NFL player has ridden his scooter directly into the path of 2 hungry bears in Texas. A security camera captured the mother and cub searching for food, giving Dallas cowboy Ha Ha Clinton-Dix the fright of his life just outside his home. Fortunately, the bears were just as startled and bolted in the other direction. After the break. 000 hero, how a quick-thinking 13-year-old saved his mother's life. And the Aussie Oscar winner set to welcome us back into the cinemas. The top stories here on 10 News First. The 25-year-old driver of an out-of-control BMW will have surgery tonight after surviving a high-speed crash in Welshpool. He lost control and ploughed into trees, the impact tearing his car in 2. Collingwood and Geelong will head west for an AFL hub to be created in Perth. The league's eyeing off Optus Stadium's capacity for a 60,000 crowd, increasing talk of a WA-based grand final. And a con man who faked being a qualified psychologist's been fined in court. Tyson Vasher preyed on people suffering mental health issues and was charged after a consumer protection probe. A man accused of deliberately running down a teenage cyclist at a Girraween car park will face trial. It's alleged Jason Peter William Ray hit 18-year-old Hashim Mohammed in his Jeep Cherokee after an argument between the pair broke out at New Park Shopping Centre 2 years ago. Mr Ray has been charged with attempt to unlawfully kill, but today entered a not guilty plea in the Supreme Court. A trial has been set down for August. A Melbourne teenager has been recognised for his bravery after making a 000 call that saved his mother's life. Jake Kuchera not only looked after his mum when she had a seizure, but also kept his younger siblings calm during the emergency.
The night Jake Kuchera saved his mum's life is still difficult for the 13-year-old to talk about.
She's one of the most important people in my life.
When single mum Anna had her first ever seizure at her home in August, Jake, the eldest of her 4 children, leapt into action and called 000.
Is she awake now or not? I don't know. She's just lying face down on the floor. Okay.
Anna has a history of cancer and the Year 8 student feared the worst.
Is she going to be all right? Is she going to die? It's pretty scary and it was stressful.
He managed to monitor his mother's breathing while keeping his younger siblings calm.
Is that your younger sister that's there with you, I can hear? Yeah, I got 2 brothers. Okay. That's all right. Just keep reassuring them help's coming, okay? You're all doing such a good job, all right?
His sister was quite upset, so he really did handle himself really, really well, took control of the whole situation.
Today, Jake was one of 12 young Victorians named 000 Heroes. This is the first time in 15 years these awards haven't been presented at a big formal ceremony, but the heroes still received a certificate and a medal. And while standing on the stage would have been nice, Jake says the best reward of all is saving mum's life. Anna's doctors don't know what caused her seizure, but she hasn't had any more.
He's an amazing boy, absolutely amazing boy, and he's mature beyond his years, and I'm very proud of him. And he saved my life.
A reminder for people of all ages.
Stay calm and call 000 straight away.
Annie Kearney for 10 News First.
What a courageous young man. It's been a long time since anyone's been to the movies, but grab the popcorn. A homegrown Oscar winner is set to welcome us back to the cinema. It's just been announced that Russell Crowe's new movie Unhinged will be the first flick to hit the big screen around the country on July 16th.
He's not a friend, okay? He's a psycho who came after me today.
This is where your first lesson begins.
The psychological thriller stars Crowe as a man who gets involved in a road rage incident that spirals out of control.
Good evening. Not a lot of rain since I saw you last, and that was expected. 1.6 millimetres in the official Perth gauge. The total for the month is now 66.4 millimetres. Today's maximum didn't break through 20 degrees. We got to 19.6. The overnight minimum was 8.2. It's back to 14.1. It's calm. The barometer 1,022 is fairly steady around that, and the relative humidity 67%. As was the case yesterday, most locations got to 19 degrees, up to the north, 20 at Lancelin, 17 at Bickley, and 16 was the lowest close to the city at Carnot and Dwellingup. That turned out to be the lowest in the state, and it was also reported at Katanning, Shannon, Walpole and Rocky Gully in the south. And 33 was the highest maximum in the far north Kimberley at Columbaroo. The lowest last night was 1. That was recorded at Ayr. Carnot in the hills had the most rain up until 9 o'clock this morning with 12 millimetres. Jurien Bay and Walpole both had 10 millimetres, and Eneabba had a total of 7 millimetres. The satellite images show a clearing trend over the southern parts of Western Australia today. Since 9 this morning, there's been 4 millimetres at Denmark and 3 millimetres at one of the Albany gauges. On the chart, you can see a ridge of high pressure is now taking control of the weather pattern, and that will generate fine conditions for the greater part of the state. The northwesterly should pick up around the southwest corner a little later in the day, and as a result, there's likely to be some showers in coastal parts of the southwest district, but very little over remaining parts of the state. You can see blue off the southwest corner of the state travelling towards the west coast. That cold front is going to arrive in the city late on Friday, and it should produce some moderate falls near the west coast, but it will take next to nothing into the agricultural areas where they'd like to see a top-up. And ahead of that front during Friday, there could be some thunderstorm activity, but the bulk of the rain will be later in the day. Here are the major centres for tomorrow, and they're still forecasting a shower or two for Bunbury in that northwesterly. Partly cloudy weather is likely in Albany and Kalgoorlie. Mostly sunny elsewhere. 23 the forecast off for Geraldton. 30 is likely in Broome and Kununurra. Adelaide's expecting a shower or two tomorrow to clear. A shower or two is also forecast for Melbourne. There may be a late shower around Hobart. Partly cloudy in Canberra with that top of 13 degrees. The other major centres should be sunny, and Brisbane's heading for 22. On the waters, there'll be light variable winds overnight, and they'll be northeasterly tomorrow morning at 10 to 15 knots. They'll go northwesterly in the afternoon and freshen to 15 to 20 knots. Seas between 1 and 1.5 metres. The southwesterly swell between 2 and 3. The high tide is a little over 1.2 metres at 18 minutes past 11 in the morning. The low under 0.7 of a metre at 25 minutes past 9 tomorrow night. Sunrise at 17 past 7 and sunset at 21 past 5. Perth should be partly cloudy tomorrow. The winds will be light. They'll go northeasterly at 15 to 20 kilometres an hour in the morning and then become light again in the afternoon. Colder night, down to 6 degrees. Tomorrow's maximum should reach 20. Then on Friday, we'll see the rain develop during the day. 5 to 15 millimetres is expected, 10 the minimum and maximum at 21. Saturday, a further 5 to 15 millimetres possible from showers, 12 to 21 degrees. Saturday is going to be around 15 millimetres, but Sunday could bring as much as 25. And on Monday, a further 20 millimetres is possible.
A 25-year-old driver is recovering from surgery in hospital after a dramatic crash in Welshpool. He was cut free with a broken arm while his car was torn in two.
Hurtling along Welshpool Road at high speed, the BMW slams into two trees, ripping the sedan apart. A 25-year-old man behind the wheel, alive.
So I heard an almighty bang. I thought it was like a bomb going off. I've run outside and I've seen the car split in half.
There was no squeal or brake skidding or anything. It was just a big thump.
Shattered glass and metal scattered for metres. The driver had to be cut from the wreck.
I honestly thought that I was going to find somebody that wasn't with us anymore. So I've called out and the guys answered me.
He was sort of wrapped up in the cocoon with the airbags coming from the side and the face, and he broke his arm. So the impact was humongous.
He was taken to hospital and will have surgery on his injuries. Doctors say it's likely he'll make a full recovery.
Absolutely lucky. Absolutely. Like he had a good car. All airbags went off, side airbags, front airbag. Very lucky man.
As I said, how he's got out alive, I'll never know.
No charges have been laid. Police are still investigating. Alexandra Ristway for 10 News First.
A conman posing as a psychologist's being convicted for fraud. Tyson Vasher was preying on people suffering mental illness and wasn't qualified.
Tyson Vasher is a narcissistic conman with multiple personality disorder.
No one was unhappy with my counselling, so I may be the best unqualified psychologist.
What happens for those people now?
I'm the best
at it. Interesting.
I'm the best.
For the past 2 months, he preyed on WA's most vulnerable, masquerading as a psychologist, offering medical services he's not qualified to provide.
What he intended to do was to employ, and was in the process of employing, psychologists to provide psychological counselling.
Right.
But what he needed to do was obviously wait until they were in his employ.
It's not the first time the 23-year-old's been in trouble with police, today admitting to 3 offences, including fraud and forging a fake law degree. A mental health assessment recommended he receives extensive psychological counselling, a service he claimed to offer for others.
Who better to understand you than someone that's been through it themselves?
Police say at least one woman gave the 23-year-old sensitive personal documents, believing he was a qualified psychologist. All she got in return was scammed out of $99.
I hope that her encounter with me hasn't left her less trusting than she initially was.
Tyson Vasher was placed on a 12-month intensive supervision order and handed less than $3,000 in fines.
It went pretty well. Got to go home, pay a fine, play some Call of Duty. I've got a new title now. I'm not a psychologist. I'm a biocologist because I'm going home. Bye-bye.
Nathan Brooks for 10 News First.
A dentist's been charged after allegedly failing to self-isolate when she returned from interstate. Police say the woman went back to work at a northern suburbs clinic, sparking major health concerns. She's since tested negative for COVID-19. The 30-year-old from Tapping is due in Joondalup Court next month. Animal activists say tough new trespass laws are unlikely to stop them targeting farms and abattoirs, while farmers are unhappy the legislation opens them up to regular animal welfare inspections.
Breaking the law to make a point. Now the state government is targeting animal activists like Direct Action Everywhere, toughening laws by doubling the penalties to include 2 years imprisonment for aggravated trespass, a fine of up to $24,000 and the option of a restraining order if there's no jail time.
We did undertake to farmers that we would give them additional protection.
I don't see this as being any implementation or provision of law that will stop any activists from entering any facilities whatsoever.
But the legislation also opens up farmers to animal welfare inspections.
It's an insult to prime producers in the state to think that we need that level of oversight over an industry that we've been a part of for most of our lives.
While the RSPCA is disappointed independent inspectors are excluded and are worried about a conflict of interest by the department.
On the one hand, they're promoting agriculture and promoting industry and use of animals, and on the other hand, there may be issues then with enforcing compliance.
While the legislation has been introduced into state parliament today, there's no guarantee that it will pass the upper house, with both the Liberals and the Nationals bitterly opposed. Meaning we're likely to see more of this. Natalie Forrest for 10 News First.
An inquest heard how a killer ex-boyfriend took advantage of his victim's compassion to murder her. Prithi Reddy pitied Harshnad and went to comfort him, but she had no idea of the horrific violence he was about to unleash.
Dentist Dr Prithi Reddy showed no signs of fearing her ex-boyfriend. She felt sorry for fellow dentist Harsh Nade and was last seen here buying water before going to his Sydney hotel room. Today, the coroner ruled hours later that's where he killed her. Dr Reddy was with Dr Nade that night, trying to be compassionate and understanding towards him and trying to give him closure on their ended relationship. Shortly after she rang her new partner and told him that she loved him, her ex bashed and stabbed her to death in the hotel bathroom. He then stuffed her body in a suitcase and left it in the boot of her own car. There was no previous report of violence between the pair. They had never even lived together. Her sister told the inquest into the 32-year-old's death she was elegant, bubbly, social, kind and witty. A day after killing her, Nade drove his car head-on into a truck near Tamworth, dying instantly. New South Wales Deputy State Coroner Carmel Forbes said far too often women were being killed by their partners or ex-partners. She was referring these findings onto the New South Wales Domestic Violence Review Team, hopeful something could be learned from this tragic and horrifying death. She had shown only compassion. Her loved ones must now live with unbearable loss. Ali Donaldson for 10 News First.
A burns patient has opened up about the night she set herself alight pouring petrol on a bonfire. Doctors are warning of the dangers of irresponsible behaviour around fires, which is more common than you might think.
A moment of lapsed judgment at a friend's bonfire landed Lahari Goparaju in the emergency department with serious burns to her face.
Grabbed petrol from one of my friend's hands, so it was just this glass, a little glass. I was like pouring, so it was suddenly the petrol was like blown like high, so high, it was onto my face.
A quick-thinking friend saving the 22-year-old international student from a worse outcome.
It was all on fire. I was like shouting, please help me, help me. Then he just grabbed me and he hugged me like this for a while.
I would have to say she's quite lucky. I think in any of these mechanisms, they're quite an uncontrolled situation.
3 weeks on, Lahari's physical scars have almost healed, but psychologically, there's still a way to go.
I was getting flashbacks relax. When I closed my eyes, I could see fire.
In the past 8 weeks, 24 patients have been admitted to the RA with burns from a bonfire or barbecue. In 18 of those cases, an accelerant was used. And coronavirus has seen a spike.
With people coming out of quarantine, there has been quite a dense cluster of burn injuries caused with this mechanism.
Anyone suffering burns should apply cold running water and immediately seek medical attention. Caroline O'Day for 10 News First.
Boneheaded. That's how Aussie Nick Kyrgios has described a charity tennis tournament that's left its organiser, Novak Djokovic, with coronavirus. Djokovic, the reigning world #1, has apologised after becoming the 4th player who took part in the tour to test positive. Social distancing was largely ignored at the event, as well as after parties where players, including Djokovic, let loose.
In hindsight, it's not something that obviously should have gone ahead. You know, it's not surprising.
Kyrgios says for all the times he's been accused of stupidity, this event being allowed to proceed takes the cake.